Most men are not rejected because women are cruel. They are rejected because nature has no use for them. Welcome to the butcher shop of desire, and you are on the table. Let's speak plainly, shall we? Forget the whispered poems and the moonlit sighs. Nature has a brutal calculus, an equation written in blood and instinct. It cares nothing for your delicate feelings, your yearning for a soulmate, your carefully constructed fantasies of reciprocal devotion. It has one imperative, cold and unwavering, the propagation of the species. And for that task, it employs a ruthless efficiency. Weakness is a cull. Nietzsche, that stern physician of the human spirit, understood this with an almost chilling clarity. He saw the sentimentalization of love as a symptom of our collective weakness, a sugary coating on the bitter pill of evolutionary necessity. The weaker sex has never been spared, he wrote, his words like shards of ice. But it is their weakness that has decided their power. And the power he speaks of is the power to select, to filter, to ensure that only the strong, or at least the convincingly strong, pass through the narrow gate of reproductive opportunity. Your desires, your longings, are irrelevant to this cosmic sorting process. You are a specimen under observation, and her desire is the scalpel. She does not choose you. Nature chooses through her attractions, her repulsions, those seemingly arbitrary whims that can elevate you to ecstasy or plunge you into despair. They are the instruments of a far older, far more indifferent will. You believe you are being judged on your merits, your kindness, your wit. But the deeper assessment is far more primal. Can you protect her? Can you provide for potential offspring? Do your genes promise resilience? Your vulnerability, your neediness, your inability to stand alone. These are the marks of the weak, and nature has no sentiment for the weak. They are simply cold. Consider the brutal beauty of the natural world. The stag with the weaker antlers is denied the herd. The bird with the duller plumage remains unmated. The sickly fawn is left for the wolves. This is not cruelty. It is necessity. The survival of the species depends on the elimination of the less fit. And we, with our tailored suits and our eloquent Tinder profiles, are not exempt from this ancient law. Our weaknesses are simply displayed in different ways. A lack of ambition, a clinging dependency, an emotional volatility that signals an inability to provide stability. These are the modern equivalents of the stag's broken horn. There is a chilling Inuit folktale about Sedna, the goddess of the sea. When angered, she would withhold the seals and the fish, plunging the people into starvation. To appease her, the shaman would have to make a perilous journey to the bottom of the ocean and comb the tangles from her hair, each tangle representing a transgression against the natural order. One year, the shaman found Sedna's hair thick with knots. As he combed, he saw visions of weak hunters returning empty-handed, of families squabbling over meager rations, of children left exposed to the bitter cold. Sedna's anger was not arbitrary. It was a direct consequence of their failure to respect the harsh laws of survival. She demanded strength, competence, and a relentless will to endure. Those who could not meet her demands were simply taken by the sea. Modern society, with its safety nets and its comforting narratives of equality, has lulled many men into a false sense of security. We have been told that love is a democratic process, a matter of mutual attraction and shared values. But beneath the veneer of civilization, the old laws still apply. A woman's desire, in its rawest form, is not democratic. It is a monarchy, ruled by instinct and the relentless pursuit of viable offspring. The weak man, the man who cannot stand on his own 2 feet, becomes a liability in this primal calculus. He is a drain on resources, a source of instability, a genetic dead end. And nature, through the mechanism of female desire, disposes of him with a chilling indifference. The fragile hope in this stark reality lies not in trying to become someone you are not, but in confronting your weaknesses with brutal honesty. Nietzsche also spoke of the will to power, not as a desire to dominate others, but as the fundamental drive to overcome oneself, to become stronger, more capable, more self-reliant. The man who embraces this struggle, who confronts his vulnerabilities and works to overcome them, is no longer a sacrifice. He becomes a force. The liberation comes when you stop seeking validation and start seeking strength. When you stop blaming her for her lack of attraction and start examining the foundations of your own being. Are you the strong stag with the commanding antlers? Or are you the weakling, destined to be left behind? Nature does not negotiate. It observes, it judges, it eliminates. The butcher's shop of desire is always open, and the price of weakness is always the same. So I ask you, standing there on the precipice of your own self-assessment, when nature's blade flashes, will it find you wanting? Or will it glance off the honed steel of your own self-mastery? You have been meticulously trained to cultivate the virtues of a sacrificial animal. Here is a bitter joke. The kind the gods might tell each other after a few glasses of ambrosia. Society will spend 18 years teaching a man to be a good boy, and then the rest of his life punishing him for it. You have been lied to. You have been subjected to the most profound and insidious indoctrination, a moral bait and switch that has been running for 2,000 years. You have been taught a gospel written by lambs for the benefit of shepherds. This gospel preaches that the highest virtues are meekness, altruism, self-sacrifice, and an endless, accommodating niceness. It tells you to turn the other cheek, to put her needs before your own, to be gentle, to be harmless. It is a beautiful, comforting, and utterly lethal philosophy. This is the great inversion of values that Nietzsche raged against from his lonely perch in the Alps. He saw that we are living under the shadow of a slave morality, an ethical system created by the weak to restrain the strong. The noble man, the natural aristocrat of the soul, values power, pride, ambition, and a certain magnificent selfishness. He creates his own values. The weak, unable to compete on these terms, perform a sleight of hand. They cannot be eagles, so they declare that the highest virtue is to be a lamb. They transform their weakness into a moral triumph. Their inability to take revenge becomes forgiveness. Their fear becomes humility. Their subservience becomes obedience. And you, my friend, have been raised as a prize lamb. You have been praised for your soft fleece and your gentle disposition. You have been taught that the sharp-toothed wolf is evil, and your own harmlessness is good. You have learned to equate your lack of aggression with moral superiority. You have been meticulously trained to be a pleasing, manageable, and ultimately a consumable commodity. In the final decadent days of a forgotten desert kingdom, there was an order of ascetics who preached a doctrine of total yielding. They believed that the path to enlightenment was to erase the self entirely, to become as soft and yielding as water, to have no sharp edges of ambition or desire. They were celebrated for their gentleness. Kings sought their counsel on matters of peace. Women admired their serene, unthreatening nature. When a horde of barbarian invaders swept down from the mountains, the ascetics went out to meet them, armed only with their philosophy of non-resistance. They yielded. The barbarians, who operated under a much older and more honest tablet of values, saw this not as spiritual attainment, but as a lack of will to live. They slaughtered the monks to a man, using their serene, peaceful temples as stables for their war horses. The monk's virtue was a suicide note written in the language of morality. Your niceness is that suicide note. In the primal, pre-social contract of sexual selection, the game is not about morality. It is about power. Not necessarily brute force, but life force. A woman's deepest instincts are not drawn to the man who is safe or harmless. That is the language of friendship, of comfortable domesticity. Her desire, that amoral, ancient force, is drawn to the man who possesses a dangerous capability that he holds in check. It is drawn to the wolf who has learned to behave, for a time, like a sheepdog. Not to the sheep. The capacity for controlled danger, for ambition, for a will that can bend the world to its shape. This is the currency of attraction. Your studied harmlessness, your desperate need to please, signals to her deepest instincts that you are not a protector, but another creature in need of protection. Herein lies the tragic confusion of the modern nice guy. He follows the rules of the society he lives in. He is considerate, he is respectful, he is empathetic, and he is met with indifference. He is placed in the friend zone, that polite suburban gulag for the romantically inert. He watches as women flock to men who possess the very qualities he has been taught to suppress. A core of unshakable selfishness, a confident arrogance, a purpose that transcends the need for her approval. He cannot understand it. He calls it a paradox. He calls it injustice. He does not realize he is a lamb, bleating about the unfairness of wolves. The hope, and it is a stark and lonely hope, is in the act of personal transvaluation. It is to take the moral code you have been handed and hold it up to the light. To ask yourself, does this value serve my strength, my growth, my flourishing? Or does it serve my domestication? You must become your own lawgiver, forging a new tablet of values in the fire of your own experience. This does not mean becoming a cruel or evil man. The wolf is not evil. It is simply true to its own nature. It means you must rediscover your own fangs, not to harm, but to remind the world that you are not a meal. So I ask you, you who are so proud of your own goodness, who taught you that your virtues were, in fact, virtuous? Was it a shepherd? Or was it another lamb bleating nervously in the dark? Your bitterness is not righteous anger. It is the impotent venom of a god who has agreed to live in a cage. Imagine a wolf, a magnificent creature of muscle and instinct, born to hunt under a cold, silver moon. Now, imagine this wolf is captured as a pup, raised in a carpeted room, fed kibble from a plastic bowl, and taught to fetch. It grows large and powerful, its muscles coiled springs of useless energy. It lies on a soft rug, its eyes watching the wild world through a pane of glass. It feels a deep, churning rage it cannot name. It sees other wolves, lean and free, and a feeling curdles in its gut. A strange cocktail of contempt, envy, and terror. It does not bark with the authority of a wild thing. It whines, it snarls at the furniture. This is the sickness of the tamed beast. This is the state of the modern man. This is the state of you. Nietzsche had a word for this spiritual sickness, ressentiment. It is not anger. Anger is a clean fire. It is the righteous active force of a strong man confronting an obstacle. Ressentiment is a toxic sludge, a poison brewed in the cellar of the soul by the weak. It is the impotent rage of those who are powerless to act, who cannot achieve what they truly desire. Unable to create, they seek only to devalue. Unable to win, they declare the game is rigged. Unable to be strong, they insist that strength is brutish and evil. This is the poison that seeps from the nice guy when he is rejected. It is the sneering cynicism of the man who calls all beautiful women shallow, all successful men arrogant. It is the sour, passive-aggressive jab, the sarcastic comment, the elaborate intellectual justification for his own failure. He does not say, "I am not strong enough to win her." He says, "She is not virtuous enough to deserve me." He creates an imaginary enemy, the system, female nature, society, because it is less painful than confronting the enemy within. The man of ressentiment does not seek to climb the mountain. He stands at the bottom and insists the peak is corrupt. In the lore of the forgotten Slavic swamplands, they spoke of the gniloi, the rotting one. It was said to be a forest spirit, a leshy, that had been captured by a fearful village and bound with chains of woven prayers. The chains did not harm it, but they prevented it from exercising its wild nature. It could not run with the deer or speak with the trees. Over the centuries, its divine power did not vanish. It curdled. Its breath, which once smelled of pine and damp earth, now smelled of stagnant water. It could no longer make things grow. It could only make them wither. It wouldn't kill travelers, but would whisper things in their ear to make their crops fail. Their love turned sour. Their ambitions seemed foolish. It was a god that had become a professional critic. Your bitterness is that rotting breath. It is the sign that your own life force, denied a healthy active outlet, has turned inward and begun to decay. The great will to power that Nietzsche saw as the engine of all life is still inside you. But your domesticated morality has blocked all its exits, so it festers. It becomes a sickness. We see this sickness reaching epidemic proportions in the digital catacombs of our time. The lonely, the dispossessed, the men who feel unseen. They gather in these virtual spaces, these echo chambers of despair. There they build vast, intricate cathedrals of ressentiment. They construct elaborate theories of female hypergamy, of societal conspiracy, of their own genetic doom. These ideologies, often supported by cherry-picked data and studies from the last few years, are not good faith attempts to understand the world. They are the sophisticated, intellectualized whining of tamed wolves who are furious that the wild wolves are getting all the prey. It is the ultimate expression of powerlessness, the attempt to defeat reality with a theory. The first fragile glimmer of hope lies in recognizing this poison for what it is, not as a valid critique of the world, but as a symptom of your own spiritual malady. The bitterness is a diagnosis. It is your soul's fire alarm, wailing to tell you that you are suffocating in the smoke of your own impotence. The pain of this ressentiment can be a gift if you let it. It can become so unbearable, so corrosive, that it forces you to a decision point. You can either let it consume you entirely, becoming another whispering ghoul in the digital swamp, or you can use its agonizing heat as fuel. You can use the rage at your own cage to finally, desperately, begin to claw at the bars. The sickness unto strength begins with the acknowledgement that you are sick. So, I accuse you, with the cold precision of a physician. That cynicism you wear like a badge of intellectual superiority, that bitterness you mistake for wisdom, is it truly a clear-eyed assessment of a broken world? Or is it the desperate, acidic smoke rising from the extinguished fire of a god who has forgotten how to burn? The hunter does not ask the deer for its opinion. He simply becomes a better hunter. Imagine a man standing at the gates of a walled city. Inside, the air is thick with the smoke of cooking fires, the noise of argument, the cloying perfume of politics and polite deceptions. This is the city of men, the city of shared values, the city of the lambs. The man has lived here his whole life. He has played the games, obeyed the rules, and felt the slow rot of ressentiment in his soul. One day he turns his back on the gate. He says no goodbyes. He walks out into the vast, silent, and brutally indifferent wilderness. The wind scrapes his face raw. The silence is so profound, it feels like a physical presence. This is the first day of his real life. This is the only path out of the cage. You cannot reason with your sickness while you are still breathing the stale air that made you sick. You cannot unlearn the gospel of the lambs while you are still surrounded by the flock. The man who wishes to stop being a sacrifice must make a sacrifice. He must sacrifice his comfort, his community, his need for belonging. He must choose exile. He must choose the wilderness. The wilderness here is not necessarily a physical place. It is a state of being. It is the deliberate, strategic withdrawal from the games of social and romantic validation. It is the monastery of the self. It is the long, lonely, and glorious project of forging a new soul from the raw material of your own being. It is where you stop being a social animal and remember that you are, first and foremost, a predator who has forgotten how to hunt. In the marketplace of the city, your value is determined by others. It is a stock price that rises and falls with her moods, with your job title, with the opinions of people you don't even respect. In the wilderness, there is only one metric of value: competence. Reality is the only judge. Can you build a fire in the rain? Can you navigate by the stars? Can you endure hunger and cold and the crushing weight of your own company? Can you silence the whining voice of the tamed wolf inside you and listen instead to the wind? There is a legend among the Aboriginal peoples of the vast Australian desert about the walkabout. It is often misunderstood by outsiders as a kind of aimless wandering. But in its truest form, it was a profound spiritual trial. A young man, to become a true man, would leave the tribe and walk alone into the heart of the continent, a place of shimmering heat and deadly creatures. He carried nothing. He had to learn to read the secret language of the earth, to find water where there was none, to find food in the barren landscape. He was not finding himself. He was stripping away everything that was not himself, his tribe, his name, his fears. If he returned, he was no longer a boy. He was a man who had faced the great, empty silence and found his own song within it. He no longer needed the tribe's approval. He had earned the respect of reality itself. Your walkabout is waiting. It is the project you've been putting off, the business you were too scared to start, the physical discipline you told yourself you had no time for, the stack of difficult books, the Nietzsches, the Kierkegaards, the Stoics that you've been meaning to read. It is any difficult, lonely path that demands you build skill, resilience, and self-reliance. It is the deliberate choice to invest your life force into building your own kingdom instead of trying to win a place in hers. This is the great active antidote to ressentiment. The man of ressentiment sees a strong man and seeks to tear him down with criticism. The man of the wilderness sees a strong man and asks, "How can I become stronger?" The man of ressentiment complains that the game is unfair. The man of the wilderness ignores the game and learns to hunt. He sublimates the toxic, impotent rage into the clean, productive fire of ambition. He stops trying to change her mind and starts changing his own reality. This is the true meaning of the will to power. It is not about dominating others. It is the relentless, joyful, and deeply painful process of self-overcoming. And it cannot be done in a committee. It cannot be done for an audience. It must be done in the silence, in the wilderness, where the only applause is the steady rhythmic beat of your own increasingly powerful heart. This is the strange, harsh hope you have been waiting for. The freedom is real, but it is not a gentle thing. It is the stark, terrifying freedom of the lone wolf on the frozen ridge. He is hungry, he is cold, he is utterly alone, and he has never felt more alive. So I invite you, not with a dare or an accusation, but with a quiet nod of understanding from one traveler to another. The city gate is behind you. The wilderness is in front of you. It is vast, it is silent, and it is full of monsters, the deadliest of which are inside you. Will you take the first step? You will not have to chase. You will only have to choose. And so, the man returns from the wilderness. He is not the same man who left the city gates. The softness has been burned out of him by the lonely sun. The whining has been scoured from his voice by the indifferent wind. He carries his scars not as a source of shame, but as a map of the territory he has conquered. He is quieter, he is stiller, and he is surrounded by a new and baffling silence. The silence of the game that is no longer being played. This is the final, most paradoxical truth of Nietzsche's law. The man who stops participating in the brutal selection process, the man who turns his back on the butcher shop of desire and devotes himself entirely to the lonely work of self-mastery, becomes the most potent force within that very system. He who ceases to chase becomes the one who is chased. Nature, in its ruthless wisdom, does not value the man who begs for its approval. It values the man who has become a force of nature himself. Think of the cosmos. A weak man is an asteroid, a cold, dead piece of rock. He is pulled this way and that by the gravity of larger bodies, planets, moons, stars. He defines his existence by his relationship to these luminous others. His path is not his own. It is a chaotic trajectory of reaction. He orbits her. He orbits his boss. He orbits the approval of the crowd. He is a cosmic slave to the gravity of others. The man who walks the path of the wilderness begins a process of spiritual fusion. Every act of discipline, every moment of conquered fear, every choice to build instead of complain adds mass to his soul. He draws his own scattered energies inward, toward a single, dense point of purpose. The pressure builds over years of lonely, thankless work, until one day, the fusion ignites. He ceases to be a cold rock. He becomes a star, and the laws of the universe change for him. He no longer orbits. He is the center of gravity. He does not travel, he radiates. He does not need to seek out light and warmth. He is light and warmth. The very bodies that once pulled him into their orbit are now caught in his. He does not have to do anything. He simply has to be. His power is no longer in his actions, but in his existence. There is a final story, a quiet one, whispered by the Taoist sages of ancient China. An emperor became obsessed with capturing the moon. He built towering pagodas, sent fleets of ships to the horizon, and commanded his sorcerers to weave spells to ensnare it. He exhausted his treasury and his people in this frantic, desperate chase. His younger brother, however, was a quiet man who was considered a fool. He ignored the emperor's grand projects. He simply spent his years digging a well in his own small garden, deep and lined with dark, smooth stone. One night, the emperor, ragged from another failure, came to his brother's garden to mock him. And he found the fool sitting in perfect stillness beside the well. He looked down into the black water and saw, floating in its silent depths, a perfect, silver, and complete moon. He had possessed it not by reaching for it, but by creating a space of sufficient depth and clarity for it to come to him. Your soul is that well. The lonely, thankless work of your exile is the digging. Every temptation you resist, every moment of pain you endure, you are clearing out the mud and the debris. Every book you read, every skill you master, you are lining the walls with stone. You do this not for her. You do this not for the moon. You do this because you have become a man who values the deep, clear stillness of his own well. And then one day, you will look up from your work, and you will find that the world has come to you. The opportunities, the respect, the desire you once chased with such frantic, humiliating desperation, they are now simply there, drawn into your orbit, reflected in the quiet water of your own self-possession. And you will feel not triumph, but a strange, calm sense of peace. The hunger will be gone. The neediness will have vanished. And you will finally understand. Nature does not sacrifice the weak man out of cruelty. It sacrifices him to make room for the man he could become. The entire brutal process, the rejection, the pain, the loneliness, was a summons. It was an invitation to leave the herd and to begin the terrifying, glorious process of becoming a star. So this is the end of the path. The choice is no longer how to win the game. The choice is whether you even wish to play. You have become the thing the world desires, and in doing so, you have transcended the need for it. You are the hunter who has become the mountain. You are the lamb who has become the shepherd of his own soul. And so, my friend, Star Forger, king of your own quiet well, now that you have it all, what will you do with it?